and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom with Will. I'm Sandhya Thukaram, and in conversation with Will Poole, our co-founder and AI evangelist in chief. Will, it's good to catch up after a while.
Good to be back, Sandhya. It's been a while.
Since we last met, lots has already changed in the world of AI, and you've raised concerns for a long time now about the enterprise viability of LLMs, and we've seen now that that is indeed true, and we've moved away from this assumption that all AI products must be built on LLMs to more specialized models. What does that really mean? And how will that shift really impact emerging markets?
Let me start with an analogy. As you know, when I'm not traveling around the world, seeing portfolio companies or fundraising or whatever the hell else venture capitalists do, I like to just spend time in my shop. And my shop has literally hundreds of tools, if I can find them. It's kind of a mess. But hundreds of tools to do very specific things. And any given tool does one thing really well, but it probably doesn't do something else well. So if you want to screw two boards together, you're going to use a screw and a screwdriver and not a hammer. But if you want to hammer something into a concrete wall, you're going to use a hammer and not a screwdriver. Well, there is no tool that does everything that you want to do in a shop in the real world. And I think similarly, what's happened in the world of LLMs is there's been this quest for AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, where there's one thing that literally is smarter than everybody. And the question for an enterprise in particular, or even any business that wants to make use of a piece of AI technology is, do they need a piece of technology that can both write poetry, pass the medical entrance exam, and solve their particular enterprise problem pretty well? Or do they want something that will solve just their problem exceptionally well? And the answer is, of course, they want the right tool for the right job. They want the thing that will nail the problem at hand. And it doesn't matter if it can't do all these other things. I think that's the transition that we see the world making, is a recognition that these expensive giant models are not the right things for most cases in the enterprise. There's some cases where they are, but for most use cases, they're not the right answer. And that's why we're going to see the continued evolution of these small and medium models that are specialized and meet the needs of particular companies, particular enterprises, particular use cases that are demanding of price, performance, and accuracy. And you cannot get price, performance, and accuracy out of a giant model that solves all things for all people, right? And when that happens, then you have to then go back down to the fundamentals. Are you getting software that solves a problem and that is delivering the return on investment that you make in that product, whatever it is? And I think that's really what that'll be good for the industry. And I think it will be, particularly if you're at the application layer, which is where we like to focus on, right? Solving real problems for real businesses. Then at the application layer, it will actually be healthy because there will be fewer crazy things happening. There will be actually a further reduction in cost. The cost of using these models will come down even further because people will find that they're not selling from one venture capital funded company to another to sell to real businesses that are going to be focused on costs. So the costs will come down. The focus on value will continue to increase. And the models are there. As we talked about a moment ago, the small and medium models can actually solve these problems quite well. Large models can do things that only they can do, and you pick the right ones. So I think 2026 is going to be a year of a focus on right tool for the right job and also orchestration, meaning a model that can help figure out which is the right tool for the right job, send the problem to the right place, and get the problem solved. So that's where I think that that transition will happen more quickly once the bubble bursts, but that could take a long time, and we're going to do that transition anyhow.
While we're figuring that out, is this the time that emerging markets can really shift the center of gravity, as you will, from the US to these areas? In India, for instance, has 1.6 billion wireless subscribers compared to 500 million in America. So that's a big number. Can numbers lead to a shift?
How will the bubble burst affect emerging markets? I think it is still a story to be told. It's pretty hard to predict it. As the focus on these very expensive, large investment, giant models starts to diminish, his writing and his thinking, that irrational spending will have to come down, which means that the rational spending, which actually is within reach of emerging market investors, emerging market startup founders, emerging market businesses, the rational spending can now start to shine. And so I think that will be exciting, right? We'll see actually affordably built solutions that solve real problems at scale in emerging markets, both consumer and business. That will happen. And it's already starting, and it will simply accelerate as the focus gets to this new model of reality.
But you don't want to stick your neck out and say this is a very definitive moment for him, the global south kind of taking a lead.
Taking the lead is hard, right? Because there's even a small model takes millions of dollars to train, and that's just to solve one particular use case. So we're still talking about very expensive things, and the venture capital flow into the infrastructure is actually, it's been very focused to the U.S., as you know, and that's going to all be diminished, right, when the bubble bursts. So it's still going to be hard to go and have development of these specialized models that are indigenous to a particular global south market. That'll be hard. Well, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it'll be still harder.
Yeah. Interesting times ahead is all we can say.
For sure.
I want to end our conversation, Will, to bring it all back to where it all happens, our portfolio. We have a very, very exciting portfolio, seeing some exciting founders really innovating around AI and really seizing the moment. For today's conversation, I'd like to talk about OnMobile. Can you kind of give us a brief overview and why we're so excited about them?
Yeah, it's a company that was founded by a founder who had deep experience in supply chain and logistics within one of the high-flying companies in the world, NVIDIA. And he recognized that there's an opportunity to solve this problem in the Indian context initially, but it actually could be a very global solution over time, with an AI-first model. Is that the complexity of supply chain logistics that's being handled by just throwing more people at the problem, which is the traditional low-cost labor market way, really can be augmented, if not dramatically changed and disrupted through an AI-first model. And so that's what they've built in Mobile. And we could talk for a long time about all the various features of it, but fundamentally they're doing supply chain planning, they're doing logistics planning, logistics execution. These are sort of the broad range of things that you might want to do in the space. But what's interesting, I think, and we're seeing an increasing number of companies like this, is that they, and they say this very clearly on their website, that they embed the intelligence within existing work environments. So these are basically software products that go into an enterprise, but that work inside of Microsoft Teams, Outlook, Workspace, Microsoft 365, whatever it is. We have another company that does this that works within Salesforce. And so the idea is if you can build your solution to augment the tools that users already have, it will actually be adopted much more quickly. And I think that's a very exciting thing. And we're seeing that trend in many different areas. And Mobile's been a pioneer in this, taking a very hard, messy side of an organization, logistics and supply chain, and saying, how do I make that work better, but using the tools that people are already comfortable with? So that's one of the fundamental innovations that they're doing that we're quite excited about.
It's lovely to see the AI first lens that we adopted 3 years ago almost really the reality of it coming alive.
It's taken some time, but it is exciting.
And I'm looking forward to talking about more of our companies in our next conversation. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Sandhya.